Alright, continuing with some of our silly lore bits about characters you may not know. For the Skaven, I now know a lot of stuff about all their characters, including we'll use the Greyseer as Thankful. And in the game, it'll come and go, depend on their price, it'll depend on what buffs they have and things like that. But in the lore, what is the most powerful? In the lore, who is actually the best character to bring with you? Who would you want watching your back in a dark alley at night? Let's find out. Coming in at absolute dead last of the Skaven Legendary Lords tier list, it is Thrat Craventail at number 7. He is the weakest of the Legendary Lords present in this game, or soon to be present. He's just not very good. His whole lore is that he's like a second in command for this guy, and then backstabs him and provides an ambush where he gets all of his superiors killed, and then he gets to take over this little, like, I don't know, band of mercenaries, I guess. He's just an ambusher. His lucky skull helm is top of an enemy's head that he took and put on his own, and somehow that is kind of lucky. It just kind of stops him from dying sometimes. He's not that good. He's not that strong. It's actually, after I learned more about him, I'm very curious why he's even the third character for this Skaven. It was Skrolt, Quake, and this fucking guy. Yeah, I mean, he's fine. He won't beat anybody you know of in a 1v1. He's not a particularly great commander. He just is. Coming in at 6th, second from the bottom, just above Thrat Craventail, is Ikit Claw. Now, I was kind of surprised about this one in my early, before I did my research, thought of what was going to be this video. I kind of thought he would come in 4th. But the more I looked into it, the more Ikit underwhelmed me, honestly. He doesn't have access to magic like he does in Total War Warhammer. He, like, sort of binds some of the winds of magic to his devices, but his devices offer all of his magical capabilities. And that also detracts from him power level-wise. He's really good at inventing things. He is one of the best inventors ever that Skaven Blight has ever seen. But he's so obsessed with inventing that he frequently gets distracted mid-fight if he sees a component that can help him with his next invention. He'll frequently lose battles because he just leaves a fight mid-thing because he has something to go do. He's a terrible general. He's a really bad schemer. He's just bad at everything besides his little contraptions. He's a decent melee combatant with that, like, claw arm of his. You know, crushing the skulls of his enemies. Plus, it has a warp fire thrower in it, so if he points it at you, you're in big trouble. Plus, that crazy spear of his, Storm Demon, has some magical augments about it, and it can shoot lightning and things. He also has some warp lock pistols that he can pull out, kind of like a pirate, but he's not a particularly fearsome combatant. Most of his power in the lore is from, like, politics, right? From being the second in command of Clan Scryer. He's very important, but he's not actually, like, crazy scary in melee combat. Now, something to bring up, when I said Ikit Claw is not very menacing, I'm talking about versus other legendary characters. I am not speaking about, like, in general. Like, if you or I ran into Ikit Claw, we would have a very, very bad time. But I'm talking about other legendary heroes in the Warhammer universe. That brings us to who I hope soon joins the game, Greyseer Thankful and his loyal mount, ever-changing Bone Ripper. Thankful's an interesting one. I had a tough time placing him on this list. On paper, he would be much higher than 5th out of 7. He's a powerful, powerful spellcaster. He eats a lot of warpstone and takes a lot of warpstone cocaine to up his abilities. He pulls off some genuinely powerful spells in the lore. And he always has this giant bodyguard Bone Ripper next to him. Even though he frequently loses Bone Ripper, he'll always go get another one. He has a lot of political savvy within the Under Empire. He is one of the heralds of the council, so he frequently has their authority and their resources behind him. So why is he 5th? Thankful chokes, dude. Thankful is a mega choker. Whenever the time comes that he really needs to pull something off, he either gets distracted and takes out his wrath on a rival, like in one of his examples, he takes a bunch of warpstone stuff and he could obliterate the dwarves that they're fighting, but he takes that moment to try and upstage Ikit Claw, so he aims, like, all of his abilities towards Ikit. Ikit has a magic diffuser that he takes the magic and puts it into the ground, and then Thankful runs out of power and goes, what was I doing? Oh yeah, the dwarves, and then both of them lose to the dwarves because they're idiots. So Thankful does that a lot, but he also just gets scared of things a lot. And you might notice that Quake is not on this list yet. For example, when I put Thankful against Quake in my mind, in the books, Thankful runs into Quake, and he even thinks about casting a spell, but he's so terrified he can't muster the courage. So when I put them in a fight against each other, I mean, in the books, he fucking choked. So yeah, he's down here. He's a great character. He's very silly. And he is the 5th most powerful legendary lord for the Skaven. 4th and dead center of our list is Thrat the Unclean. I didn't know a lot about Thrat. When I was doing my first impressions of a tier list before I did my research, I put him 6th, just ahead of Tretch. But I bumped him up to 4th after doing my homework. One, Ikit Claw, the more I looked into it, the more I realized he wasn't up to snuff. But also Thrat surprised me. Apparently, all I knew about him was he was regenerative, and he's obsessed with his Molder creations. But that's about it. Apparently he is strong enough, due to all of his experiments, to pin a rat ogre to the ground with Creature Killer. So he is apparently mega buff. That plus his regenerative abilities. He is also the 2nd oldest Skaven in Clan Molder. He has some strange anti-aging stuff with all the warpstone he's shoved into his body. So, yeah, okay, he's got some craft there. He is more of a scientist than a general. In combat, he tends to just throw people at you and hope that that deals with it, and if not, he'll run away. But, yeah, Thrat the Unclean, mega muscly Molder badass, likes to make all the monsters for Clan Molder, and he has more warpstone in him than you can, probably lift. It's actually probably very heavy. You can see all of the little spines in him are all warpstone that he keeps shoving into himself, including the one in his eye. He lost an eye in one of his experiments, and he just slammed some warpstone in it and called it good. So somehow he hasn't died, but yeah, he's a little spooky. I wouldn't want to fight him. Which is why is he garbage? Coming in at number 3 is Quake Headtaker, everybody's favorite, bestest boy. Quake is one of the Skaven's best duelists, one of the better duelists in the Warhammer universe, though most other races can still style on him a bit. I think Thorgrim Grudgebearer is probably still a better duelist, but so are most of the Elven combat characters. For a Skaven, Quake is really good. Quake has trained a lot of his own Stormvermin Guard, and he has beaten several Council Guard in melee combat. And he's frequently followed around by his loyal bodyguard, Ska Bloodtail. So Quake comes in above Thrat and the other combatants just because of how fearsome he is in melee. I don't think Thrat's extra strength would particularly help him here, because Quake has all those trophy heads on his back. Quake has some strange attachment with the Winds of Shaiish, the death magic, that no one can really explain. He can't cast spells, but he can communicate with the dead. It is not just a falsehood he's perpetrating by himself. Quake actually can talk to the skulls on his back. They can tell him things he shouldn't know, like some of the skulls sometimes tell him what characters said when he wasn't in the room, and he is accurate about that. Some skulls also tell him where secret passages are, even though he's never been to a place where he is standing. And they'll tell him about what his foe is about to do, like watch out for your left, he's swinging or something. So I think Thrat would just not be able to hit him. Quake is also very fast. In addition to that, he has the Warp Shard armor. It's made out of warpstone, so whenever you actually score a little bit of a hit on him, warpstone dust comes out and blinds you. Though I suppose that would be less effective versus Skaven like Thrat. It might be better against more human factions. And then there's Dwarf Gouger, his magical war pick. Too far. His magical war pick. It is enchanted, so it goes straight through armor like butter. No amount of defense can protect you from him. Squeak probably beats Thrat. He is a pretty good commander, though he mostly just runs at you like a bulldog and has 100,000 Skaven behind him and tries to overwhelm you with mass. But, yeah, Quake is very powerful. Clan Moors is one of the more powerful Skaven clans, member of the Council of 13, all things like that. And if anybody hears the Headtakers coming their way, they get a running. With our second place entry, you will all now know who is number 1, but we'll get to him. For now, let's talk about Deathmaster Snitch, the second most powerful Skaven Lord in my opinion, based off of the lore. Snitch is a spooky guy. He is the second in command of Clan Eshin. Though in the books, I'm just realizing that his teeth are all dyed black, and in this, he is actually quite white. In the books, he is all black. Black fur, black teeth, black everything. Anyway. Snitch never takes a fight. He can't win. His blades are covered in such a deadly poison that even Skaven, a very poison-resistant race in their own right, just due to their living conditions, if you get one cut, you are as good as dead. No race can survive the deadly poison Clan Eshin has built up, and Snitch can apply it from 3 blades, including his tail blade. He also has several throwing knives and little gas bombs that he can throw at you. Again, if any of those touch you, according to any race on Earth, it is an instant kill. Maybe, possibly, the High Elves could survive it. Maybe, if they had, like, Alariel literally with them when it happened. He can walk up to you unseen. He literally 1v1s Bone Ripper, Thanquil's Thanquol's beloved bodyguard in one of the Thanquol and Bone Ripper Omna's books. He just walks into a small room, sees a rat ogre, kills the shit out of it, and then talks to Thanquol. No questions asked. So, he already beat one of the members on this list, and I think he could beat Quake. Because Quake wouldn't see him coming, most likely, and then that would just be a one-shot kill. Maybe the skulls on Quake's back would tell him Snitch is coming. But if he knows Snitch is coming, it doesn't matter. Like, he would immediately turn and start screaming at him, and then Snitch would just fuck off. So, no, I don't think Quake could beat him. I think the worst comes to worst, it's an even trade. But I think Snitch would probably usually win. Even the Night Lord Sneak, the current leader of Clan Eshin, is so scared of Deathmaster Snitch that his strategy to stay alive and stay in power is to keep Snitch constantly on the job and busy. Idle hands are the devil's playthings, as it were. Though Snitch, in his own regard, doesn't seem to really want Night Lord Sneak's job. He seems to like being out and about. He doesn't really love politics, doesn't love scheming. He's a very one-track mind kind of Skaven. While most other Skaven that have been on this list, in their own stories, tend to, like, oh, I'll do the job, but I'm busy conniving for my own thing. Snitch just generally seems happy to be, you know, sneaking around, killing people, doing things. Night Lord Sneak does a lot more politics that Snitch does not care for. So that leaves us with last, the most powerful lord in Skaven lore. It is Lord Skrulk. And the more I learned about it, Lord Skrulk's a fucking problem. Lord Skrulk is a scary, scary man that I would never want to face in any capacity whatsoever. There's a lot baked into why I rate him as the strongest lord in the lore. So let's just get into it. In some of the Thanquol books, he is antagonist. He's walking around. Thanquol only survives his encounters with him because Thanquol has access to abundant magic that can protect him from Skrulk's disease abilities. He has the Liber Bubonicus, the really big book on his back. In it, he can look up a spell and just kind of inflict it upon, look up a disease rather, just kind of afflict it upon you. So you could run into Skrulk and he'd just be like, you have AIDS. Okay? And then even if he loses the fight, like let's say you stab him in the heart and he dies, you still have AIDS. It'll get you. So that's not great. That big sensor of his, that big mace he's flinging around, if he opens it like it is, it releases a gas that there was some Clan Eshin hit squad that were trying to walk up to him. And he didn't even know they were coming. He just had it open because he was chilling on his own. He wanted to take a nap, and he opens it when he's not paying attention. They were walking through a tunnel. All 15 elite assassins died in that tunnel before they even found him. Right? Okay? Like, the aura of Pestilence, that -5 melee attack aura in the Total War games, that's what that's trying to represent. But it just straight up kills you. So how can you go into melee against this guy? If breathing just kills you, if he sees you, he can point at you and give you a terrible disease and then fuck off and you just die. He's allegedly blind, but he can, like, tell what's going on around him at all times, which is even worse. Like, it's better than seeing. Because if, like, Deathmaster Snitch, the number 2 on this list, snuck up on him and threw, like, a poison knife at him from across the room, he would sense it coming at him and he would react. Like, it's better than just having sight. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So why isn't Skrulk taking over the whole world? That's a great question. Because he's part of Clan Pestilence, which is also a fucking problem. Clan Pestilence is insane. They okay, so you know how in the Total War games, there is Ruin, which is Warp Lightning, Scorch, all those spells. And then there's Plague, which is Vermintide and Wither and the Blessed, the Plague Blades, whatever. You know those two lores? In the game, they're represented as, like, both of these are fine. They're not both fine. Like, 95.2% of Skaven sorcerers practice Ruin. The entire Greyseer clan practices Ruin, okay? Plague's not a thing. Only Clan Pestilence does plague magic. And when they showed up, the rest of Skaven society said no. And just Clan Pestilence was like, I think the Horned Rat likes disease more than Ruin. They all said no. There was a massive civil war. Everybody versus Clan Pestilence. Literally every single Skaven on the planet versus Clan Pestilence. And the end result was Clan Pestilence was given a seat on the council. Clan Pestilence fought everybody, and depending on who you ask, it was a draw or they won. Okay? That's a problem. That right there is a problem, and this man is the second command of that clan. they're still a problem. The Skaven are still worried about them, and they're curious why Clan Pestilence even wanted a seat on the council when they could have just allegedly killed everybody. But like, so he has tons of resources. He has very good troops. And in a different video, I was talking about that like Storm Vermin should actually be the same cost as Plague Monks, and Plague Monks should be a DPS version, and Storm Vermin should be a defensive version. But Storm Vermin are not better than Plague Monks. Clan Pestilence Plague Monks will fuck you up. Anyway, why did I go into all of that rant? Well, similar to Clan Pestilence, that they got a seat on the council for mysterious reasons, just accepted it as that rather than pushing for more. That's another reason that Skrulk and his like crazy abilities also isn't a bigger threat than he is. Skrulk and Pestilence are generally happy to just follow their weird research. Like, they're more interested in a puddle of mud because it might have some bacteria they don't know about yet that they want to gather and they want to collect and they want to harvest than conquering the world. So Clan Pestilence just kind of goes where it wants. It doesn't really care about holding territory. It doesn't really care about being better than other clans. They just have their own shit going on. And Skrulk's generally that way too. Wherever Plague Lord Nurglich sends him, he just goes. He's happy enough to go there. He has his own schemes, and he wants to rule Clan Pestilence. He's not really like Snitch in that way, where Snitch doesn't seem to actually want to rule Clan Eshin. Skrulk does, but Nurglich is just more powerful. But yeah, the only reason Clan Pestilence haven't like taken over Lustria or something, or are much more of a problem for the Lizardmen, is they just don't seem to have the will to do it. They're not particularly interested in combat. They just want to do debatably Nurgle things. Pretty much Nurgle things. So yeah. But Skrulk is definitely the most powerful lord. Like, I don't think that's even debatable after doing my research in the lore. He's as good of, if not better, than Thankful at spellcasting. He is as good of a scientist in his own right as Ikit and Thrat. It's just, it's biology rather than physics or genetics. But yeah, he knows his diseases and medicine really well. He's a good commander, almost as good as Quake, which I didn't go into Quake's thing, but anyway, he's almost as good of a commander as Quake. And in melee combat, sure, he's not fancy, but his auras are just so insane that I can't imagine Quake or Snitch fighting him. Like, I just can't imagine how they even get to him. And when they get to him, what do they fucking do? Anyway. Yeah, Skrulk, by far the most powerful. Like, it's debatable. I would say for this list, it'd go like 7, 7 is way down, Tretch is way down. And then it's like Ikit and Thankful, I could see arguments for either. Thrat, Quake, I could see arguments for either. Snitch, I say, is convinced of the rest. And then there is a huge gap, and then Skrulk is up here. Roar! Subscribe, yes.